Hello, welcome back to the show. It's me, Chris Brooks, for another LSB film podcast. I hope everyone's well today. On today's episode, I welcome back Peter Wilson to explore how AI can be used as a great tool to help fight against the legal system, to challenge predatory legal tactics, how to use GDPR to your advantage, and the common tricks councils, debt collectors and agencies use to drain people's money. Clear, actionable, and a bit angry. For good reason.
Are you concerned about all this corruption being rebranded as conspiracy theory? Well, don't you worry. Sit back and relax and join in the conversation with today's guest. Welcome to another LSB Film Productions podcast with your host, Chris Brooks.
So yes, welcome again to the show, Peter. It's great to have you here.
No, it's great to be back. Always good to have a chat with you and spread the good word.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hear you've just come back from the good old US of A.
I have, yeah. Spent some time over in Austin, Texas, which is absolutely unbearably hot. It's ridiculously hot. It's not even sit by the pool type of like hot. It's like don't sit by the pool type hot. I was getting burnt hiding underneath umbrellas. Not that I'm good, sort of like designed for sitting in the sun for too long. I'll admit that, you know. But oh dear
Oh,
me, I don't think the actual people there get it either. I was actually trying to ask them quite like a matter of factly, like why on earth does anybody live here, and how on earth did you settle in the middle of a desert? I mean, all right, they have got a huge river flowing through the Colorado River, so I get that. There's a water supply there, and they've got a big lake, big for England, but not big for America. But it's a
hmm.
biggish lake. So I suppose that's
I
probably
think I
why
went to that as well.
you are.
I think I've been to that lake. Is it up in the mountains? Do you have to kind of...
I never actually went there. There was just guys talking
Oh,
about it,
okay.
because I was obviously I'm into boating. I have like commercial boating licenses, so that just chatting about that and the so this guy was telling me all about his friends' boats and blah blah blah. So we found out all about the lake, which I didn't know. But yeah, so but apart from that, the rest of it is just a desert. And obviously now it's a massive city, but the heat is unbearable.
Hmm.
It's like, I don't know. And they were saying, oh no, it's quite cool. No, it's been worse than this. Like, oh, I'm glad I weren't here then.
Yeah, it is
No.
very hot. I spent 3 weeks in there. Where did I go? I'm fairly sure I went into Austin. Fort Worth is where I flew into, and I flew in on my own, and I was only, I think, 12 or 15, between 12 and 15 years old. I had family out there, but the initial plane journey there and back was on my own. So that's quite an interesting experience. But yes, it was very hot, very
Mhm.
hot.
Yeah, and the thing is, because it's like in the hotel room, I'd spent a lot of time, being a geek in the hotel room, but like on like the computer doing research and everything like that. And in there, it was cold. They had the air conditioning machine sitting behind the desk, so it was literally blowing on your back. So I was sitting with a coat on in the room, But so I don't know. I wasn't going to touch any machines and try and turn it down at all. So I'm not that
Tech
accepting.
savvy. But no,
Yeah.
that's fair. So talking about machines and all things AI, and because there's a lot of misconceptions on AI. I myself have even turned down sponsorship deals based on it being AI. But at the same time, I am fully aware and have used AI to talk about, to help with legal matters and research and things. And it is incredibly valuable when it comes to those kind of things, which I'm fairly sure that's what you want to talk about today.
Well, yeah, definitely a massive part of it. And again, trying to show people that at the end of the day, right, the AI has been around for a very long time. You just never actually been told about it. So, it's only now that sort of like it's getting like a good like word, isn't it? Well, it's not a word, but the term AI, use AI, artificial intelligence, I mean, think about it. you're going into any shop that you want or going to an ATM machine and you put in your card, that's AI, it's artificial intelligence. There isn't anyone telling you, oh, here's your money then, right? You've just took out 50 quid from the machine. It's all artificial intelligence. It's just now it's becoming like a buzzword, if you like.
Mm.
I mean, one of the real weirdest experiences that was getting into an AI driverless taxi,
Mm.
which I did in Austin. So, I had booked a hotel. It was only about 12 minutes away from the venue where I was doing all the training. Very deep, sort of like immersive knowledge training on, systems, coding, business, all to do with like the AI systems and everything. Um, but yeah, so I thought I don't want a car. I've been to America a few times. I've driven in America. I don't want to do it. I was like, so I'm just going to get myself some taxis there and back. That'll do me. I'm quite happy with that. So gets on the Uber app, which in case anyone doesn't know at all, AI Uber app. There you go. But you don't have to do anything once you get to the States. It's exactly the same here. You don't have to change your app. It just finds out where you are and it'll get you like a taxi. The difference being in Austin that they're trying to think what it's called now. I think it's called a Waymo, right? Waymo. I think that's what they called it. But I didn't know that. So I'm, in the hotel reception, clicking on it, and it's like, okay, it's only going to be 3 minutes. The taxi's going to be there, or whatever it was. And they went, you have the option of a Waymo, which will be the before you. Do you want it? So, oh, if it's going to be before, of course I do. So I clicked it, and it says go and stand outside. So I go and stand outside, and then this car pulls up with nobody in it, right? It's like, oh, but then it's got my name written on the top. So, you go up to the car and it's like on the app, it says press this button to open the door. So press the button, the door's open. And when you open it, when you pull it open, it's like talking to you, welcome you, come in, sit down. It's actually come in, Peter, sit down, make yourself comfortable, make sure you put your belt on, safety first, all that. And I'm like, oh my. And it's like looking and I was like really nervous,
I
thinking,
was going to say, I would find that incredibly unnerving.
yeah, well, it's like, what happens if it goes wrong? What
Exactly.
happens if
All the
some
what ifs start popping into your head
Yeah,
up.
so well, I'm kind of here now, aren't I? So I mean, like, you've got to try it. So I just think of it. Well, all right, it's like a fun fair ride. You might die, but like hopefully it's safe enough. But it was a surreal experience. I mean, I videoed it in. I had to. I was like, look at this, look, there's
Did,
nobody in
did you
here.
enjoy it? You'd have to send me a clip and maybe I can play it alongside
I
this.
will. I'll send you. Yeah,
Did
it's
you
like,
by the end of the journey were you kind of like oh,
but the thing is, it's like, I mean, it if you just accept it, then it's quite relaxing.
Mm.
And it's got if you look, it's when you're sitting there and you put your belt on, and it's got a screen play like a literally, and it says on there, press to start, just like in a computer game or whatever it is. Not that I've ever played them, but like you click there, press the screen, and it says right, thank you, and it starts, and it turns into a radar screen. Right, so I don't know if anyone's ever beat like I used to.
What, like a sonar, like a beep, that kind of
No, it doesn't go around, right? If you just look at more of the modern radar screens, right, they don't. It's not like a ship's one where it's going around like that, and you have to like see that you can actually on the more modern ones, you just see what's around you.
okay.
Whereas if you like the boats that I use, if you switch it to sonar, it shows you how deep things are and if anything's coming up, and then you switch it again and you can see what's around. It doesn't spin around like an old-fashioned
Okay.
one you'd have
I'm
seen on a
stuck in the
boat.
70s, mate. You'll have to forgive me.
Well, that's when I was like on warships doing that on a radar screen, watching it do that, like so I'm very used to that. But this one just opened up, and I could see all the cars moving around it. So I mean, the biggest sort of like disconcerting, I'll call it, rather than worrying, is like we're going down there. There's no faster than 35 miles an hour, but there's cars flying the other way, right? Literally passing like that. I think, well, it's only a few inches off each, and they're flying towards me at like God knows what speed. Even if it's the same, it's making it 70 mile an hour. And
Yeah.
and it
And
was
if it's an electric vehicle, straight away you're in a 50-50. Am I going to explode or not?
well, you must be sitting on a huge battery to start with. So that's luckily, everybody. I did put like a post up, and there was people going, "Oh God, EMF and all that." But I mean, wherever I go, I always carry this, right? This guy made
Hmm.
this for me. So and like from the research on scientists, right? It puts
Trust
like
the
a shield.
science.
Yeah, exactly. A protective shield around, so it protects you from EMF. So I was relying on that, believing that, and I've got them on my phone as well, and all sorts. So. But and also above you, the thing had my name written on, but above that as well, and part of it is it is a huge radar. It's got to be a radar. So again, when I was in like the Royal Navy, they would say, like, don't climb up the mast, don't go near the radar. We have to shut the whole ship down before you go and maintain it or paint it or anything, because it's dangerous.
Mm. Oh, how
Now I've
times
got
have
one above my
changed.
head, but that far above your head, like but so I don't know. Maybe they've got a protective shield on there, maybe because like
Well,
everybody's in.
if you speak to people like Mark Steele, he'll probably say no.
Oh, I know, yeah.
So, so how then how did you first start coming across the fact that things like ChatGPT and whatnot are really good for your legal side of things?
Uh,
Because you always assume that it would be working against you, wouldn't you? Because
you
you'd think
would.
that whoever it is that's done this is not gonna want us mere peasants
Do
with
you
all
know
this
what?
knowledge.
I think the first time I actually heard it wasn't they didn't call it Chat GPT or anything. It was like I can't even remember what he did. It was Robert from Observation Deck, and he like come up and said, "I've got this legal whatever chatbot or whatever he called. I can't remember now." So I had a look at it, and I must admit I wasn't too keen on it, but I thought, well, this deserves investigation. So I had a couple of friends that were into coding and building actual AI apps. So when I started talking to them, and this is well, we use like a special version of this Chat GPT. You can't use the normal one, which is open and free to everyone. You have to go in and design it and customize it. And I'm like, okay. So they showed me how to do that, and then they showed me, how to actually design a customized one where you have to go in and you stop it from doing all the things that the general public would want to do with it. And then what you actually do is you design it and then you train it and teach it and then you load it with the information that you require. And that's sort of like what happened. And then, fully enough, I got another like friend of mine, like Dave, who was already doing it, and it was just like coincidental. I thought, oh well, that's interesting. So he was showing me stuff he designed as well, for council tax and for looking at like what would you call it, like ministries, private ministries,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
I thought, wow, this is really interesting. So with that kind of like knowledge and buzz, I really dived into the custom made GPTs. So when you go in and you can design them there, you can design them legally. So all they can do is look for what you give them. So you can literally block it from going into search engines like Google or whatever, because that's a lot of what they do. And
Hmm.
also Reddit. I don't know if you know that, but like
Hmm.
GPT is really linked to Reddit. So literally, if somebody makes a comment on Reddit, it could take that as what's true, right? So we've heard stories of literal barristers who've actually went to court cases with completely fabricated court cases because it come off ChatGPT. And it has got a tendency, and these experts that I've spent the week with, and I'm talking about people who've made literally 300-400 million by creating an AI company and selling it. I mean, these are like top like AI producers and programmers, and they run their own companies even now. Um, and it hallucinates. And that's the word they used. It hallucinates.
Really?
And you've got to stop it hallucinating. I'm like, hello, really? It's like, and this is the thing. So like, you've got to really program it down. Now they've got special design prompts that they've taught me how to use that can stop it hallucinating, stop it lying, stop it creating things just because it wants to agree with you as well, by the way.
Mm.
You've got to stop it wanting to be your friend,
Do you
right?
have to? So you don't. So when you put a command in, then it's not like, please, can you do this? It's more authoritarian. I can't even say the word. So you're doing it in a more authoritative manner. So it's
Only once you program it. Well, I'll tell you this funny story. What was funny when it happened is that the guy it was in Texas, and again, but the programmer guy, he was actually from London. So, and he says, well, I've programmed mine already. So this is what it is. But now I'm going to use it. I always like to be very polite to it. He says, just in case, and they do take over the world, and he says they're just going to keep me alive and, keep me as a pet and I'll be all right. But so you be polite once it's created, but you've got to make sure that you
so you know
authoritarily
you're at it now.
being in charge of it, right? That you state what it is and what it's not allowed to do. But it's got to be a special language word, and you can't just say, "Hey, by the way, don't lie." It's not going
Mm.
to comprehend that whatsoever. But you've got to program it correctly because it does, in their words, hallucinate, but also does make things up. And it always tries to be your friend. You've got to stop it doing that.
How
So,
do, how do how do you how would you stop it from doing that other than
well,
programming it? Like if you're using like regular Chat GPT, or is it just you can't do that?
you could probably put the prompts in on every chat you have, right? Because if you're using sort of like a free public chat GPT, so you can go in, you create an account, free account, you go in and you use that. It's just the generic one. Um, could get, if you could actually get a hold of these prompts, you could probably put it in at the beginning of every chat. But as soon as you finish with it, it will wipe the screen. It will, completely forget what you've been talking about, and it won't remember what you've actually asked it. So once you go back to it, you switch your laptop off, come back again, or whatever it would be, phone, you'd have to put it in to get that prompt in again if it's like
Mm.
a
Well, I
generic
do. I have to say,
topic.
when I have used it, they have started now remembering previous
It will
conversations.
remember, right? So this is the thing when we're designing an app, when we go into an app build, so we're building, say, like a receptionist, for a business, right? You have to keep that chat line open because it will remember everything you've said from the beginning of that specific chat. So, if you save it, the ones that I've got will save all my past conversations. But when you want it to be really on sharp end, like knowing what you're trying to achieve in an app build, you have to keep that chat line open so you can go back to it the next day, but you've kept it open and it will remember everything you've wanted. And then you say, look, it's, going into, if you code anything, it generally what you do find is as soon as you actually go in and fix one coding thing, it's actually broken another by accident. So you have to keep going backwards and forwards. So you want the historical part of the chat to actually finish off the agent or the app or whatever it is. Um,
It
but
sounds very confusing or
it
complicated. I'm sure it isn't once you know, but
it can be,
yeah.
right? But you've got like apps that are now coming forward, and let's just call it software, right? Is now available where you can literally just talk into it to be able to create a top end app that would be available, and you could even share it on the app store as well. It's got that capability. So what you could do, literally what you can do now you couldn't do 6 months ago, with the technology is or at least being made available to us, whichever way you want to look at it. If it's like a lot of people believe it's already been there for hundreds of years and they're just allowing it to be released, whatever your take on it is, right? But it's moving fast and it's moving forward so fast that it is actually incredible what you can do now. You can literally get your microphone put or onto your mobile phone, click it so you talk into it instead of typing, explain exactly what you want built, and you've actually got. We've been working with it for the last couple of weeks. Whatever you've set into it, it will literally create for you all of the coding, all of the actual whatever you want, the pages that you want, the work that you want it to do. Yeah, it's crazy. It's incredible. But we were talking at the beginning, before I can't remember if we said it since we started recording, but you know, what everyone has to remember is it's just a tool,
Mm.
right? And again, working with these guys, and it says, well, we've got to be the human in the loop because it's just a tool. Yes, it's amazing, but you have to have a human in the loop who actually decides what, where, when, and how. And it's that gets put into it to go and do the job, right? The same as you were saying before, like a car or a knife or a gun, right? None of them harmed anyone. Okay, it's like the actions of the thing. So you either use a knife to go and slice some bread, or you use it to harm someone. But it's the user, not the actual
Yeah.
tool. Same as a gun. Guns don't kill anyone. It's like the action of the guy holding it that does the
Although
thing.
people probably would argue there, to be fair, that's probably the worst example one could use a gun because, well, it's a gun, isn't
Yeah,
it?
but
There's only one objective there.
but
Bang.
I spent years as being like a small arms specialist for the weapons in the Royal Navy. So,
Mm.
they were sitting in a cupboard. They didn't do anything to anyone. It wasn't until he took them out and pointed and pulled the trigger. So it
That's
had to
right.
be the human action.
Everything is intent, isn't it? It comes down to
Yeah.
intent.
So yeah, of course, nobody wants to get shot by or stabbed either. But it's definitely the end user that is the perpetrator, not the actual tool they use. So AI is just the same, and you can literally like replace a taxi driver. Unfortunately, right, the taxi driver is going to be, oh, right, that's a bit of a bummer. Yeah, I was actually speaking
And the
because what
checkout
though is,
girls.
well, they've already gone, haven't they?
Yeah, I went in. I went into our local Tesco's only because I had to get some headache tablets, and that's the only place I can get them. And the amount of new added self checkouts is unbelievable. Needless to say, I went to a cashier.
Yeah, exactly. And anytime I need to go to anyone, wherever it will be, it would be. I mean, I'm lucky. I'll admit I'm lucky. We're very rural, so we've got lots of farm shops. We were just in one before. We take our grandson up so he can play with the chickens while we go to the shop and stuff. It's, I know not everyone has
Nice.
that opportunity, but so if you are going into them, just remember as well that when you go in there, anyone going in, I've been trying to get everyone to do this. They're all worrying and panicking about like digital ID and facial recognition. Are you actually asking anybody in the shop going up and saying, I need to get my data now that you just collected? Yeah, you should be doing that. In fact, you shouldn't be doing it
Well,
on your own. You should have
I have
huge
done
groups.
various videos pertaining to this,
Yeah, we've
and
got to be doing it. We've got
yeah,
to get all these groups going out. The ones that used to be the stand in the park or go and marching for whatever reason you got locked down, go to the supermarkets and start demanding. Like you're no, don't have to demand in a rude way, just be very polite. I want my data that you've just captured there. And that is what they call a verbal SER under Article 15 of GDPR. You are perfectly, legally, not even lawfully allowed to do that. And they've got then 30 days to respond. Now, if you do it, one of you, right, it's probably not going to be like a big deal. Now, we've found out because my group go out and do it regularly that they've actually now some of the supermarkets have got a form saying, yeah, no problem, give you a form, just fill that in and we'll get it for you. So they're getting used to the idea. But what they're not having is like, 100 people going in every 5 minutes, one after the other. And it's about the actual pressure that you can put onto them
mm,
administratively wise. Is that a good word? Right. But like going
it'll
in
do.
and like if they've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these SCRs that have to complete within a 30-day period, they're just not going to be able to cope with it. That means they're going to miss the deadline. That's going to be a compensation. So then they're going to have to start paying out compensation. So if we could get a national like movement that everyone was going, and let's just say, right, okay, February will be one supermarket, March will be the next supermarket, April will be the next one, and you nationally we targeted it like that. I don't think it would be that long before all of those cameras started getting removed. You know, we are the most spied on nation in the world. And, this stuff about us being free and having free speech and all is the biggest fallacy
Of course it is.
that you could ever imagine.
We lost our freedom completely, pretty much, when New Labour got in 1997,
Yeah.
when he sold everything off. And
Yeah, well, it's just, it's been going downhill rapidly. Even probably before then, I mean, but on there, you've got to realize like the power of GDPR. It is so powerful. And they can't take it away. This is more than likely. I've always said it from when really started deep diving in it, is that this is probably designed by the system to make sure that we didn't try and get a hold of their data. They didn't realize we could read and write and start using it for ourselves. And they do have to follow these lines, and it is extremely powerful. And if you're talking about a data breach, right, rather than anything else, use the angle of the data breach. That is much more powerful to use than in a debt scenario saying, well, like you never borrowed, you never give me the money anyway, or any of that kind of stuff. Use the
what
data breach.
what happens when you, because I can't remember who sent it to me now, but I not that long ago did have an email saying about a potential data breach from some website, or I don't know, maybe it was the bank, or do you know what I mean? There was someone that said sent an email just notifying me about a potential data breach. What would, or what should one then do on that?
Well,
Because they've already admitted it.
yeah, if you actually, what you need to do then is you need to have to send them an SER, and you
Mm,
would actually be requesting all of the data that they've been processing and who they've shared it with, either accidentally or on purpose. So you need to get that information via the SAR, subject access request. Some people call it a data subject access request. Same thing, same type of thing. As long as you're sending it, requesting it under Article 15 of GDPR. And then once you actually see that and find out have they actually accidentally shared all your data or not, then you can actually apply for compensation if they've breached your data. And you don't have to have a material loss. A lot of the companies will say, well, try and get out of it by saying, well, you haven't actually lost anything. But that's got nothing to do with it. We've got case law. I think it's Lloyd versus Google. Another one, Vidal, Lloyd versus Google. Because they breached the data, you only have to have the breach. That's
mm.
all it needs to occur. It doesn't have to cost you financially. If they've breached the data, that itself is compensated. Looks like under Article 82 of GDPR, you're allowed compensation. So it doesn't
At
have
the end
to.
of the day, it should boil down to trust, shouldn't it? It should be a case of, look, I've trusted you with my data, whatever that data may be, and you're the one that's let this happen. So, yeah, bollocks.
Yeah, well, exactly. So if you look at it on a more complicated version of it, so when we're dealing in like personal loans, credit cards, anything like that, and then they sell your data, because that's all they actually do. They don't sell the debt, right, to these debt collectors. That itself is a breach of trust. So
Mm.
that is their breach of the fiduciary duty. So that's the way that we should actually be looking at it and word it. But again, this is the biggest thing. This is why we've been doing a lot of research lately is on its wording, literal wording. So when you get into a court scenario, right, what you'll find is because what you should be doing is you should be attacking them for a breach of data. Now, I'm not saying, right, that you've got to try and work it out properly. So when these debt collectors um purchase what is they say it's your debt, what they do is they actually get it off a website. I've seen several websites that were shared by like an insider, and it's literally just spreadsheets. They just buy, and if you really think about it, you've got one of the biggest ones in the country is called Lowell Portfolio, right? Or Lowell One Portfolio, because that's all they do is they buy portfolios of data. They don't actually buy the debt. To buy the debt, they would have to actually pass legal title. And they never pass legal title. It would be too expensive. So all they do is they buy the data. And then they lie and they twist the actual the law, right? And this is what is the biggest struggle. is that they are allowed by the judges to twist the law, and the judges that don't think themselves are in the county courts are experienced enough to know what equity is, even though they have a concurrent jurisdiction. They're supposed to recognize equity. They have a concurrent jurisdiction in this country, but I don't think they're fully trained in it properly or experienced enough to know the difference between statute and equity, and to know that equity should stand above statute. But also they allow the debt collectors and their solicitors to twist the actual law, the Law of Property Act 1925, Section 136, when it says the deed must be absolute and it must be in writing. It doesn't say at all. It also takes the presumption, unfortunately, that there is a deed. It's just the presumption. It doesn't state anywhere in that section that they have to show you the deed, but they do have to have one, is the fact, if they want to claim legal title. And that's what they don't ever want to talk about. They don't want to talk about the Law of Property Act miscellaneous provisions. I should say Law of Property Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1989, Section 1, which states you have to have a deed, and it needs to be recognised by a deed, to be called a deed and signed by the assignor, which means whoever is that originally owns the debt, plus witnessed independently. They don't ever want to mention that part, right? But they also say, oh, the notice, when it says it's you should be given notice, that's in the 1925 Section 136. But you're given notice of what's happened in Section 1 of 1989, not like that one, and that's how they actually get away with it. And it's just incredible that the judges will allow that. They're actually allowing a statute to be used as an instrument of fraud. Whereas equity,
How are the judges getting away with that?
well,
Because
because they
surely
are.
a lawbreaker is a lawbreaker.
Yeah, I know, but like, who's going to tell them that though? The only way that you do that is to then go in. You've got an option, right? So this is what we're actually working on now. Instead of going to the county court, right, you should be going to the business and property court for several reasons. First of all, and it's not as easy as that, right? You have to make sure that you've got the actual cover letter and your particulars of claim done in such a way that it points blankly and plainly straight towards the business and property court, in brackets Chancery Division, because the business and property court has 100% sole jurisdiction over a data breach. County court hasn't got a jurisdiction to monitor a data breach. So because you're filing for a data breach under GDPR, you should also go to the correct venue. And the correct venue is not the county court. The county court are so used to and experienced in dealing in plain, simple debt cases. And now, in reality, what they say, since I think it was about, what was it, Stephen told me, he used to, like, he got rid of millions of debt right up until they actually changed it to stop him using what he was using, which was like, you didn't lend them the money, show them where the money come from, right? It's not as easy to get away with that now, because the judges said, was it borrowed? Then someone's borrowed it, and
Mm.
you were the one that you've had the benefit, so you're paying it back, right? And that's what they're like. Their attitude is like that in the county court. It's like, well, a notice is enough. Yeah, we don't care, but that's not really lawful at all. And they get away with it a lot. So you either have to appeal, but to me, that's pointless, because you're appealing to go back to the same venue that you've just been in, right? And you've also got to get the judge that's just argued against you or decided against you to say, all right, I'll let them appeal against my decision.
It's
So,
begging your captures, isn't it?
yeah. So the only way that I would say to do it is, if you've already done it in the county court, try and do a transfer to the business and property court with an N244, which has succeeded a couple of times for our group. They do try and block it all the time. The debt collectors themselves will block it, and what they'll say is like, "Oh no, this is not a high court case," because it's classed as high court, business and property court.
Mm.
But and they always try and say because the value's too low. It's got to be over £100,000. But again, that's just a half truth. They always make up these like half truths about it. It says one of the things it has to be is over £100,000 if it's such and such a case. However, if it's a data breach, then the data breach, the jurisdiction is the business and property court, not county court. So it's not just about the 100,000 mark. It's about certain different things. So first of all, which are the point I'm making is, you said there that's a breach of trust if they shared your data. Yeah, it's a fiduciary breach. So that itself goes into chancery. So does the data breach go into chancery. So that actually points it towards chancery and completely annuls any county court involvement, because they can't cope with trust duties, fiduciary duties, or any breach of data. That is only the jurisdiction of the business and property court, the chancery, right? But it's called business and property as
Mm.
its real name. And that's the way you have to word it. And that's the way you have to actually create your cover letter and your particulars of claim when you actually put them towards the court. Because what happens when you fill in your form, right, be it on email or actually by paper, you fill it in and you send it into the office. So it's either going to go by email or by paper into an office, right? Who's in the office? No judges, right? It's just people that go in there, let's just say 9 to 5, pick up the paper. Where does this have to go to? And immediately what they do is they're not legally trained in any way, shape, or form. So the first thing they'll do is they'll look, oh, this is for £5,000, £7,000, £10,000. It's not £100,000. It must be county court. And they put it in the county court, right? So you have to word it so they can't look at the figure before they actually look at the actual case itself.
Mm.
So it has to be put, this is nothing but business and property court jurisdiction due to the fact of fiduciary breaches, data breaches, and what you're looking for is equitable relief. That's the first thing you look for. Equitable relief, i.e. in a declaratory remedy, and also your injunctions, your injunctive remedy against the actual debt collector. That's the main thing you're wanting, right? The damages, that comes after. So you have to
Okay.
word it in that way. So you're always going to be looking for a non-monetary claim initially.
Do these data breaches apply to things like getting a speeding ticket? Therefore, the DVLA has then given your information to the police, or is that something that you just accept as you've contracted to that because you took your driving test and all that malarkey?
Yeah, that would be very hard to try and see or try and get that into a breach of data, because first of all, they'll call it under Article 6 that they have a legitimate interest to process your data. So DVLA are holding your data, so they're the data controller. But if it's literally, it's classed, speeding, for instance, is actually classed as a criminal offence. So that there, it makes it a legitimate interest. So it would be extremely difficult to argue that point that there.
Is it
However,
a criminal
I'm
offence?
sure that's what it says, but it's definitely a motoring offence, and it uses the word offence.
Yeah, offence ain't a criminal though, is it?
Yeah,
That
but
just
it's
seems
like that's what
weird.
it's classed as, and they'll actually say because it's an offence that there will be a legitimate interest. I mean, maybe they're just lying. I've been told a couple of times by the old clowns in costumes, well, that's a criminal offence. I'm not saying I speed a lot, but like, has happened. Um, but on the other side of it, though, when you're talking about the DVLA, if you move it across from, say, speeding, which you shouldn't be doing anyway, right, going to the private parking side, now that is 100% breach.
Right, okay.
They should not be sharing your data at all, for several reasons. Now, again, the research of this was done by a friend who spent 4 years fighting with the DVLA over this. So it wasn't all mine at all. I was working on the GDPR side when he was working on the public task side. So just so everybody knows, They used to, when this was first introduced, which was Theresa May 2012, they had the Protection of Freedoms Act 2012, right? So it sounds great, protection. Who wouldn't want that? Right? Well, that sounds good. I want my freedom protected. Well, how comes your Protection of Freedoms Act makes you, as a keeper of a vehicle, right, liable for any parking charge? It's not a fine, right? It can't be a fine because it literally is no offence involved. It's literally a charge for a breach of contract. That's their terms. So what they do is under it's Schedule 4, or it might be 12, can't remember now. But like what they do now is they actually hold the keeper liable. Doesn't matter who's driven it, who's parked it, right? But they used to be called, well, it's our legal duty. This is what DVLA said. It's our legal duty to share that information. But it can't be a legal duty because there was never any kind of offence. It's completely 100% civil
Mhm.
because it can only be a contract. So 4 years later of this long fight, what they did was, right, they lost a huge court battle, DVLA, right, with our, well, my friend, and he got it changed, and it was really him, all of his effort, from a legal duty to a public task. Now that might not sound like a major thing. However, once it's
No
moved,
offense, Peter, but I feel like I'm talking to the wrong guy now.
but well, he's point blank said, I want nothing to ever to do with it. That's what he told me. He says, you got to
Really?
finish what you're doing with GDPR. He says, I'm sick to death of DVLA. I never want to speak to them ever again. That's what he said.
Fair play.
I don't blame him. 4 years,
Mm,
like, and getting him in court. And, he does see that as a major win to actually move it from a legal
absolutely.
duty to a public task. And what he described it as was saying, well, look, public task means they have to be 100% sure that there is a legitimate reason to provide that data. Well, there is no way in the world that anybody, never mind just the machine itself, in the DVLA can actually say 100% sure, without like a shadow of a doubt, that there's a legitimate interest to actually provide the data because we know you have 100% created a contract. How could they
Mm.
know that? you know and even if we take away that, because it is a massive scam, but if we take away the scam side of it, the amount of accidental charges that get put through because of broken ANPR cameras, and just like whatever reason they get your actual registration number goes in. And the other day, I was dealing with a young girl. She parked in a lay-by outside of the actual car park and still got a ticket for being in the car park. How that works is beyond anyone's reason. But, and these weird things do happen. So
But how
how
much
could
of
we be
this,
100% sure?
how much of this could be down to,
Accidental.
well, I was going to say, how much of this could be AI mishaps, or how much of this is human um error? Because
Well,
we were talking about AI, weren't we?
yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you've got the ANPR cameras, which is what? It's AI, isn't it? Whatever way you look at it, immediately takes your image when you go into the car park, the image of your car. I mean, they'll get the number plate, and then when you're leaving. But I mean, it breaks down that often, right? And it's just, we've had experiences of it. Like that girl, she parked in a lay-by outside of the car park. It's
It's
just
mental.
insane. And they won't take it no for an answer. You have to fight them properly. They won't just say, "Oh, that must be our mistake." They're like, "No, no, no, we never make mistakes." So you always have a fight on your hand no matter what. But going back to the data thing, and this is my massive, massive argument, and we've got it proven on case law again, right? That, remember this, all right? You're going on to private land. It is private land, the car parks. Let's say going into we talked about a supermarket before. Say you're going into a supermarket car park. Yes, it is private land.
With
It'll be owned
public
by a
access.
supermarket. It has public access. Therefore, right, it comes under the Road Traffic Act and the Highway Code. You can't get away with it. Case law will tell you DPP versus May, right? They arrested her in the car park, drunk driving, right? She tried to argue, no, 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 it's like it's private land, you can't do that. No, it applies. So, 100% if there's public access, which are driving vehicles and pedestrians moving around there, you have to be under
Mm.
the Road Traffic Act and the Highway Code.
And it's exactly the same for when you're inside the supermarkets with their cameras, because people say about it being public place versus a private place, business. But like you said, if it's open with public access, then it is treated the same as if you were being filmed ordinarily.
Hmm.
Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, what you've got to really comprehend is, right, we can't stop them taking the images. We can't stop them filming it and saying, well, we want to catch shoplifters or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Security, you want to have the cameras on really anyway. I'm not arguing that, but you are allowed under Article 15 of GDPR to ask for your data though.
Mm.
So we're not asking it saying, oh, you've acted illegally by taking my image. What you're saying is, I have the legal right to ask for my data. That's all you're doing.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that they've done anything wrong. So, what we have to remember is like we want to stop them having facial recognition software, right? That is
So
an
to me, that is
intrusion
the
of
worst.
privacy.
For me, the I don't mind the ones up there following you around the aisles. They don't bother me so much. It's the ones where if you're using those um self checkout things
Yeah,
where it's filming you make the transaction. So therefore it's taking your face and the biometrics of that. It's linking that to the things that you're buying, which obviously will affect your carbon credit score. Is that's the issue that
yeah.
I've got.
Exactly,
It's
which
being
is why you need to
weaponized.
have masses and masses of people weaponizing the GDPR right then of Article 15 and getting queues of people asking for the data. That is how you actually. So we're not saying they're doing anything wrong, illegal, or whatever you want to call it, but we want to stop them pushing it so it does get to that stage where it is all biometric data and that you can't actually buy things because you've used that level of carbon footprint or whatever it would be. That's what I'm saying, and that's why we should be doing that in queues in these shops. And even if somebody said to me, well, I don't like supermarkets, I'm not going to buy anything there. Who said you have to buy anything there? Go and ask
Just
as soon
go
as you
in.
walk in. I want to go to the toilet, right? Well, oh no, you've had your image taken. Then they've got your data as soon as you go actually near the place, never mind into it. So go in and request your data. You don't have to go and buy the shop,
That's
right?
it.
Just do that. But again, going back to on the DVLA, on the actual parking side, them private parking companies, they rely on you creating a contract. That is what they say.
Mm.
When you go in and you park your car, they've said you've created a contract and you've accepted their terms and conditions. But that flies in the face of not only the Road Traffic Act and the Highway Code, but also contract law itself and equity. Why is that? Well, on the Road Traffic Act, anybody who's actually been in a vehicle of any kind, it states that you always have to be driving or operating with due care and attention, which means you can't go and read a sign. Now, I'm not on about a road traffic sign when you're going down the motorway, which is like 10 times the size of your house and it's got an arrow like that, right? That just tells you how to get off. That's easy. That's normal. These are not traffic signs. These are them tiny little signs, whereas, like, the rating's about the same size as that,
Mm.
right? Tiny little print. So you can't read it. Therefore, by entering, they're saying you've accepted terms and conditions. It's an impossibility and an offense if you did read it. Because if you read it, it means you weren't paying due care and attention in a moving vehicle. And it is public, right? Because you've got that access. So it does come under the Road Traffic Act. So there's the proof of it. DPP versus Mayor states it, as well as a couple of other ones. I think it's Robinson. Keep getting mixed up, but again, it was a drink driving one. He tried to get away with it because he was in a car park. Nope, can't do it.
He still had to
Um,
get to the car park, didn't he?
well, yeah, but at the end of the day, it's still covered on there. Then what they say is, well, oh, yeah, and this is what an argument I get loads of people. They say, oh, no, but you'll have parked up and then you'd have went and read the terms and conditions. So then you can accept it. That's not true. Under contract law, and there's a couple of different cases, but I'll tell you the most common one to use. But what you've done by getting out of the car, so you'll pass the big sign. It probably will say readable enough, £100 if you want to stay in, right?
Mhm.
Or if you stay beyond your 2 hours or whatever it says. Once you've parked and you go and read all of their terms and conditions, then that's new. That's classed under contract law. You are now being faced with new terms and conditions. Well, if you had already accepted a contract by driving in and seeing the £100 written, knowing, oh, it's £100 if I stay too long, right? But then you go and read all the different terms and conditions, it makes the contract void ab initio, void from the beginning. Why? Because it's new terms and conditions you're reading, which actually shows it's bad terms and conditions compared to what you understood, which is how they've worded it, understood from the beginning and agreeing the contract. That will come under Thornton versus Shoe Lane Parking Limited, which says as soon as you actually see new terms and conditions, then the contract is void. Case law. A little bit different in the case as it was written on the back of the ticket, but right on their case, once they bought the ticket, it come out and it told them all the terms and conditions. Instead of the sign, it was a little bit different. Same thing though, you can't read the sign while you're driving because you would be committing an offence,
Mhm.
right? To read the sign. So you park up, then you go and read them, then it's different terms and conditions. So it voids the contract completely.
Blimey.
So so if you
That's,
look at that, let's go back. Why am I telling you all this? Well, let's take it back to public task then. They said that when we changed it, 4-year fight in the court to get it changed by the DVLA from the legal duty to a public task. The public task means they can only provide your data if they are 100% certain you had a contract. How can you have a contract when it's an offence to create a contract? By operating a moving vehicle and not having due care and attention, by reading a tiny small print on a sign.
mm, it's just dirty tactics, isn't it?
It's completely dirty tactics.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, wang. It's the same with the U list signs.
Yeah, well, that itself that's going to be my next target and finding out how we can actually get GDPR to work against them, you know. But even worse than on the actual parking side, what about the actual type of land you're on? Because they've divided the type of land as well. So you have relevant land and non-relevant land. Now, the amount of people that I have seen, like, posting on my TikTok or going into Facebook and saying, I'll not tell you everything they said, but like how angry they are because they've got a ticket at the airport, right? So now, I've got £100 charge because I was like 5 minutes over at the airport, or I dropped my mate off and I got £100 charge. They'll always call it a fine. You got to stop calling them fines because it puts it in your mind that it's like
You've done
something
wrong.
yeah, and you haven't. It's a charge. It's for breaching the contract. However, here's the most important part. They're not allowed to do that because it's non-relevant land.
So does non-relevant land mean it's not of benefit to you? As I don't know, what does that mean?
Right, okay. So I'm sure it's Schedule 4. Anyway, I think it's maybe Article 12, Schedule 4. But Schedule 4 is they are allowed to make the keeper of the vehicle, all right, because we don't own it, we're just keepers, liable. Doesn't matter if you name the driver or not, you are the one liable, right?
Because you're the trustee.
Only on relevant land. Okay. This is one of the clauses that the people who were arguing, can't remember his name now, the Lord something or other in a House of Lords, he's trying to remove Schedule 4, trying to remove the keeper liability because it's a scam. It's a disgusting scam. Imagine like if it's speeding, right? What you get is, I think, is it the NIP, and you have to tell them who the driver is, right? And you get into trouble for not telling them who the driver is because the driver's the one that was speeding, not you,
Hmm.
unless you were the driver, but you know what I mean. So it's not necessarily the keeper, though, is it? So they made sure, though, on the actual tickets that they wanted to start producing. It's a brand new industry, by the way. Really, it never used to be like this. Going into a supermarket and then you would get like £100 fine or charge, whatever you want to call it, for like parking and getting your shopping a newspaper or whatever.
Mm. And it only
But
seems to be places like Lidl and Aldi, those kind of supermarkets.
oh, it's
I've never
everywhere
known it.
now.
I've never known it in Tesco's or.
Really? I've
Hmm.
just been there. They've got huge big signs everywhere.
Oh, have they? Okay, well, that's how we can. Oh, that just goes to show you how often I go to these supermarkets. Then.
Yeah, just like we had to go and get stuff that we can't get from the farm. So, you can't get everything from the farm,
No.
but yeah, the difference between relevant land and non-relevant land, and this is the good thing, if you live in Scotland, all of it is non-relevant. If you live in the north of Ireland, that English people will call Northern Ireland, it's all non-relevant. In other words, Schedule 4 does not apply. So they cannot keep the keeper liable, right? They can't hold the keeper liable. This is huge. So when you go to an airport and you're dropping somebody off and you get this charge coming through, even if it's in England and Wales, you're still on non-relevant land. Airports, ports, train stations, non-relevant. They cannot hold the keeper liable. So what do you do then? You write back to them and saying, we don't know who the driver was. We haven't got, this is like a family car. There's lots of people allowed to drive it. We cannot, unless you can identify who the driver was, we cannot. Therefore, we can't help you. They can't hold the keeper liable on relevant land, non-relevant land. I'm not saying, by the way, that they'll ring you up and go, I'm so sorry, I never meant to do that. They're still going to come after you and still going to be a nuisance, but they can't do anything about
Mm.
it, right? This is the thing. And if it's on non-relevant land, airports, which are so many people complain to get tickets for it, it's non-relevant. Tell them you don't know who the driver was,
Mm.
right? Ports, right? Not many people that I know go to ports, but like some do. But train stations, loads. I bet you loads of them. If you're getting any charge whatsoever, if it's from a private parking company, it's on non-relevant land, they cannot hold the keeper liable. So
Well, you go. That's good.
anywhere in Scotland or Northern Ireland, right? If you
Happy
get any of them
days.
at all, just say, "Oh, don't know who the driver was. Can't find the driver."
That's mental, isn't it? See,
Yeah,
what I'm interested in at some point, because they've now said about another conspiracy that's coming true about the paper mile driving.
right.
No, we don't. We travel. We don't drive. Um, how is this going to play into that? With like, they're going to have to rely on cameras in order to police that, aren't they? Unless
100%.
every
Yeah.
car's tracked.
Yeah, but even, well, I mean, like they keep talking about like, well, it'll be tracked by all, everyone will have an electric car. I mean, can you
Yeah, no, they won't. Oh, he's frozen.
still, there's a lot of people with cars,
Hmm.
and there's only two places in the whole village where you can charge a car.
At home.
Well, unless you go to home, like, and plug it in, you got, but, if you're out and you're parking up, you're going somewhere, or someone's visiting and they want to go, there's only two places in the entire village, right? And even the town next to it, which is about 40,000 population of that town, there's only about two or three actual places where you can go and charge a car.
There's
So
just no
there's no way.
infrastructure. But then it's
No.
because they weren't ever really designed for everyone to have a car because they're trying to limit people's
Well,
movement.
yeah, there is that side of it. That could be going like down that lane, you know. But it's just not feasible though, is it? It's just an impossibility. So if it's coming to the tracking version, if they're going to do pay per mile, you know, um, you would have to see how on earth that is going to actually be
And you
policed.
couldn't do that and car tax. That would be a piss take, wouldn't it?
Well, I mean, I did read a full report on it, and they said that it will be. If I mean, it's not set in stone. It's literally one of them think tanks, right? So it's not like this is going to happen tomorrow. But obviously the whole idea was how are we going to replace the car tax thing? That's what the idea was. So that was
Mm.
one of the things put forward. Have it a pay per mile. It would be fairer, you know. No, and I don't think anything like that they do to us is for to be fair
No.
and make it better. That's for sure. you know. But reversing back to the beginning of the conversation where we're talking about on the AI side, what we've actually done is we nearly finished it now, very, very close to finishing it now. So a lot of it work done when I was in Texas was designed an AI agent that will take you through that private parking ticket scenario to actually reverse it and hold them accountable under contract law, equity, and GDPR. And it'll actually help you get all of the actual paperwork correctly, legally created so that you can send it off in the right time, in the right format, in the right order to cripple their tickets.
Well, that sounds really good. And
So,
I hope
that's
that,
when AI is a friend.
mm, again, a lot of it, like you say, it depends in whose hands the software is in. And so if it's in the hands of good people, then happy days. But that does sound like a really good app. I'd be
Yeah.
interested to be updated on that one. I will give you the last closing words. I think we've done about an hour. And yeah, have you got any other little nuggets of information before we part?
Well, I mean, the reason why it's sort of like I really hard pushing hard and so passionate about the actual GDPR is because it's so powerful,
Hmm.
but also against the DVLA is because they make somewhere around 30 million a year from sharing your data with them private parking companies. I mean, that's like a lot of money, So the actual CCJs that were getting issued is somewhere in the region of 8,000 a day.
Canal.
So that's why I just feel that there's a massive need to try and help as many people as possible. And that's why I've been doing so much research on it and trying to push it out and tell people, there's ways out of this without getting too frightened or worried. There's things that you can do. And then once I've finished this app, it'll actually show you how to do it. All you got to do is plug it in and it'll actually tell you how, when, and where to actually do it.
Well, that sounds brilliant. It's like the modern day deep fib machine where it just tells you what to do and how to do it for you to get somebody to save their life. And this sounds like another lifesaver for many people. Listen, thank you very much, Peter, for your time. I've really enjoyed speaking with you today. And I hope everyone watching this has had plenty to take away and learn from. And please do follow Peter at his website, which is,
Well, it's on school.com. It's Checkmate the Matrix.
there you go. You've heard it here. So thank you once again, Peter. And until next time, everyone, look after yourselves and I'll speak to you all again soon. Bye for now.